Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining our webinar today. My name is Dan Elefsina, and I'm an application support engineer with exocad America. I'm joined with my colleague, Lucas Chardulo.
Hey, everybody. How's it going? I'll be helping out behind the scenes with the questions. So there should be a spot where you can type in questions throughout the webinar. So just try to keep those related to the topic that we're going over, and we'll try to get those answered. All right, take it away, Dan.
Sure. For today's session, we are going to demonstrate ModelCreator workflow, and then we're going to proceed on through to generate a mock-up design, so a wearable wax up for the patient, and then we'll proceed through ModelCreator to show how to create a digital wax up model. So before we get started with the live demonstration, we have a brief PowerPoint presentation here just to discuss some of the latest features of DentalCAD 3.2 Elefsina for our latest feature release. So we'll proceed here with the highlights. Would say it's definitely an honor to represent exocad, and I'm happy you all joined the webinar session today. Okay, so up first, a lot of our features that we're going to discuss today are encompassing increasing productivity, streamlining the workflows, making the user interface a lot more easier and intuitive, and then increasing communication. So this first feature right here, automated steps in Wizard for more streamlined designs. So within DentalCADApp, you can go to Tools and Settings and select the Design Workflows tab. And then from there, you can enable Simplified Crown Design Workflow. So this will allow you to utilize the virtual articulator automatically in the background. So it'll position and generate those jaw movements behind the scenes. And then also you can enable automatic contact and occlusion adaptation modes when you proceed from the tooth model placement. Up next, we have a couple features with ModelCreator. So from the UI, we've added our tooltips here that give a quick preview of the different types. So especially useful for training and new users to understand what type of model that they're going to be producing with our software. And again, with ModelCreator, so when you reach the end of your design, there will now be an option for quick model design. So this is a simple one-click operation for the design technician to allow the software to generate a model for you automatically. Up next, for bar design. So due to feedback with the desire to want to adjust the bar profile design for more customized approach, we've added the paint and pull feature. So this allows you to mark a specific area on the bar and then pull. By doing so, you're going to be able to morph and change the size and shape of that specific area that you've defined. In today's focus, we're going to show all this live, but with ModelCreator improvements. So within the secondary views, there's been an additional button that's been added. It's going to allow you to toggle that to adjust the scan data orientation from occlusal front, top, left, and right view. And then for a shade selection, within the 2D color bar, there's been some crosshairs added for the tooth base and the highlight color. So these are visible at all times, and you can left click and drag those on the fly. So a little bit streamlined approach and more visibility. And then our ModelCreator report, there's more customization for better communication between your dental technician, the dentist, and the patient during the treatment planning. And with Dental Share, so there's been some feature requests on this, mainly within the Japanese market, but it's a really good feature to be added in. So there's an automated Dental Share digital order slip that can be created. So within the DentalDB settings, you can enable that as shown in the screenshot there, and it's going to be automatically generated order slip PDF. So that can be shared via Dental Share, and the order slip can contain the recipient address and the sender address. Up next, we have the UI has been revamped with the virtual articulator. So at the top of the virtual articulator options, you're going to see a scrollable slide bar that gives a 2D image preview of the articulator you're going to be utilizing. You're going to be able to visualize the movement and simulate the jaw movements from the upper or lower jaw. So this was a big feature request for a while, basically to simulate the jaw movements from the lower jaw as an option. And with the simplified UI, there's also considerations for the model scans, pre-op scans, and wax-up scans to influence that articulator simulation. So with that being said, the additional pre-op and wax-up scans can now be moved during the articulator simulation without influencing the articulator movements as well. And the in-skull articulator. So the UI of this has been updated again, so the crystal skull effect. And for this, you can easily see the restoration a lot more clearly within the motion and recognize the virtual tooth roots in the upper jaw. From a software architecture and system requirement changes, the minimum requirements is now Microsoft.NET 8. Our latest exocad framework 2024 has been updated to match Windows updates and requirements for our software to function properly. So from there are required internet addresses that our software would need to access. You can see those within the change logs of the software. And just a note, if you have any questions about that, contact your reseller for those specific URLs. And for this quarter of the year, we're offering a special limited time offer. So for all the users that are looking to upgrade or update their installation to the latest version, any customer with a perpetual dongle activated before August 31st can now switch to the Ultimate Bundle for a one-time fixed fee. No matter how old the software licenses are or how many modules are activated, they all can now be upgraded at an attractive price. Customers with old software licenses will receive an upgrade to the current version of DentalCAD 3.2 Elefsina, a license that will now be equipped with all modules from the Ultimate Bundle, and all upgrades will be valid through December 31st, 2025. So the update contract will be extended for that user for that long of a time. So that's really great offer there. And new denture tooth library for exocad that we've now released is called Inspira. And there's a lot of different bite classifications with this and presets that really streamline the design process and can increase productivity. Okay, so we always like to make our end users aware of this. Every trade show I've ever been to for exocad, there's been a lot of questions revolving how do we get trained by the exocad team. So with our web shop, you can get to this by shop.exocad.com. End users have the ability to purchase training sessions from our team. So there's now some in-person options within our Germany headquarters, and then also the web-based webinar version with any of the exocad experts from our team. Upon purchasing this, our team will tailor a customized training session for you, and that way we can reach whatever goals you're trying to achieve. So you and up to 25 employees can participate in this training. It will be recorded, and you can select from various topics from DentalCAD, an exoplan, everything from the core version of the software, certain release highlights. You can go by module, and even certain bundle packages for an Ultimate Bundle as an example. So you will receive a certificate upon completion of this training sessions. And like I mentioned earlier, the recordings will be available for you and your team. All right, so our webinars will be recorded, and they're going to be uploaded to our YouTube channel, so you can view those at any time. I do want to say thank you again for joining, and now we can get started. Okay, so for today's session, we are going to cover a Smile Creator case. As I was mentioning, we are going to design a mock-up. So that's going to allow us to veneer over patients' existing teeth and generate basically a wearable virtual wax-up. So Smile Creator is one of the ultimate sales tools in dental. So you're going to be able to load patient photos and/or face scans, and then create a PDF. So you essentially you're going to have 3 sales tools out of this. So you're going to have the PDF you can provide to the patient to where they can show their family and friends. And then our second option would be to actually 3D print your design so the patient can actually wear it and physically see themselves with their new smile. And then alternatively, you have a third option to generate a presentation wax up model. So from there, dentists can utilize that for creating a matrix to use flowable composite as an example, or have that presentation model to physically view that the changes being made. Okay, so with design, we'll go ahead and open that. And for our case here, we have our first wizard step. So scan data editor. This is put in place so the user doesn't have to leave our software at any time. We've all seen cases that have distorted scans, so maybe you want to trim or clean up to give a better presentation of the scan itself. So at any time in our software, you can access this via expert mode. You can also add, remove, smooth on scan data as you see fit. I'm going to go ahead and proceed to the next step. Okay, so now with 3.2 Elefsina, you're going to see in the Start Smile Creator wizard, there's an additional option, Start Segmentation. So as I select that option, the software is going to automatically select the teeth from the patient's gingiva and separate them. A really cool feature of this is you can also use those as restorative models. So what that means is any teeth you have, we'll say on a pre-op as an example, you can use as your tooth library. So you can see now the software is automatically projecting the teeth, it's highlighting them, and it's separating them from the gingiva. I'm going to select next now. And the automated feature here is turned on via settings. I can pull up the settings menu in a bit, but to utilize the automated feature, you do have to enable the cloud-based services. So this is enabling the software to do all of the tooth segmentation automatically. If you don't enable it, it is optional. You can left click on each tooth to define that position. It's still a pretty streamlined, fast workflow in those regards. But automatic is pretty nice. So I'm going to go ahead and proceed, but beforehand, I'll show you that it essentially generates a tooth library for each segmented tooth. All right, so now we're back at the Start Smile Creator window again, and we can select that option. So for today's demonstration, we do have some patient photos. I'm going to go ahead and load those. So we have a retracted image where I'm going to select some control points here. We're going to select 2 corresponding points on both data sets and then select next. So with alignment of photos, you'll see your control points to adjust any of the automatic alignments. So when you're adjusting these, essentially it's scaling and rotating the image all at the same time. So alignment is very intuitive and it can be done rather quickly. From there, you can also rotate your model in the background, which will kind of create a scaling factor as well. So with that being said, sometimes photos and 3D data sets don't have the same perspective. So you have a flat 2D image and a 3D model. So this use field of view slide bar here allows you to change the perspective of the 3D model. So we're not actually changing anything to the data itself, or any of the size and shape, the scaling of it. It just allows you to adjust the perspective that's shown with that scan. So I'm going to go ahead and proceed by selecting next. And now we're going to load a smile image. Okay. From here, we have the same capabilities to adjust scaling of the actual image. We can get a closer representation and match our retracted image. All right. And I did hit Control Spacebar to proceed to the next step, which is our define lip curve. So software will automatically give a proposal that allow the user to fine tune and adjust the points by left clicking and dragging. So this will basically give you the preview of your PDF on where the software will focus for the tooth libraries. And the software will have the automatic pupil detection, and due to reflections and refracting a light, you're going to need to just manually make some small adjustments there. Those pupil points enable our helper lines. So these lines are going to help aid the process of your tooth placement. So you can adjust where that midline is going to be positioned by left clicking and dragging the control points. From there, you will see a proportion guide that's loaded by default. You can scale this in position, and this will give you the visualization of where your library is going to be placed. Now, default is using the golden proportions here, but you have a slew of different options to choose from proportions. So we can kind of fine tune that placement of the proportion guide, maybe change our midline on where we're going to want to position that. And then from there, we can see additional smile curve option. So with our 2D images, we can toggle back and forth the different viewpoints, adjust positioning, angulation, and scaling of that smile curve. Now, obviously, you can utilize this curve either for the occlusal plane or the lip curve. You can add additional lines, as an example from maybe earlobes to cusp tips or your cuspids, but we'll just go ahead and proceed with the default helper lines. Okay, so starting off with SmileCreator, for those of you who are not aware, basically within this center view here, it's going to overlay the patient's photos. You have different renderings that you can choose from to visualize the patient's new smile you're designing. The first step here, we do have, you can choose separate libraries. So one option is you can toggle through them like so. And that way you can kind of live update on the secondary screen to see those libraries. But as I mentioned, you can choose the drop-down menu. With our latest version, we do offer 3 new libraries by default, the Philippidus 1, 2, and 3. So we'll go ahead and proceed with the new libraries to show that. Okay, so on the right-hand side of the screen, we do have our secondary views. And this is really put in place to minimize the need to rotate scans and change positions, so you can work your way throughout the design process by left clicking and dragging the control points to scale the library that has been loaded. So we can rotate, scale, change positions, and then perhaps we want to see the patient's existing teeth to see where our tooth placement is so far. So as I discussed, we want to design a mock-up today that's going to allow the patient to wear this design over their existing teeth. So I can look at the existing teeth. I know I got to be a slightly longer and a little more facial from a design standpoint to make sure we have enough material for 3D printing, or manufacturing, I should say. So that's as simple as just toggling those buttons. And from here, We can check our scaling, make sure everything's looking upright. I can turn on my show distances, for example, and perhaps show how close I am to the scanned data. So from a size perspective, I can increase this, match whatever material thickness I'm wanting to produce at. And now I have a better representation showing my coverage. So from here, I can expand out facially, maybe rotate my gingivals outward, and then complete my design from there. So when you first open up SmileCreator, the software has a bounding box around all teeth you've selected. You can at any time click off in the background, and now I have the ability to left click on an individual tooth. There is a mirror movements functionality, so I can utilize that to maintain symmetry while I'm designing the different tooth numbers. So perhaps we need to bring out facially on our central slightly, or rotate angulation. So that's going to help you maintain your symmetry throughout the design process. We can cant our laterals slightly facially, rotate from a gingival standpoint, and from here we can also freeform. So I'll go ahead and select the freeform option. Maybe go to a preview rendering. Now from here, I have the ability to use the anatomic tab to grab and pull material, but I can also use hotkeys like Shift to scale that material so it is filling enough and we have enough space to meet the manufacturing requirements of any of the materials we're producing this with. So it's simple as just holding Shift, left click, and drag your mouse. Now we have ample opportunities throughout the design process to change the design after SmileCreator, but just to show some other tools here, we have Add, Remove, and Smooth, where you can just simply left click areas that are deficient in coverage. So once we select OK, and I should note that this is this slide bar here is showing a minimum thickness orientation on your design. So you can toggle that on and off. So we can select OK. I'm going to go ahead and turn my show distances off. And then from here, perhaps on the preview, we want to adjust orientation of the whole smile itself. We change long axis position. Another nice feature that's built in is the measurements. So you can kind of click on through each tooth and see the different measurements that are available. And from here, didn't mean to hit freeform. So I'm going to go ahead and proceed to the next step. And now with this version, we still have the slide bar to adjust position from previous to new, so you can kind of visualize differences within your design. From a shade standpoint, there's always been our Vita shade selection, so you can toggle through showing different preset colors. And then from there, you have slide bars to adjust tooth color. So you can use this slide bar to adjust that visualization and the shininess of the teeth themselves. And then also there's custom color selection. So for those of you that want the flexibility to adjust the hue and saturation as an example, you'll have that capability as well. But for me, with the standard tooth selection, I prefer using the 2D color bar. I think all the features work very well, especially if you understand color theory. But you can see these different crosshairs that have been added. So this is going to allow us to left click and drag and change the tooth color dynamically. So we can get a closer representation of the final shade we're looking to achieve. Perhaps the patient's wanting to achieve, a lighter shade by, incorporating bleaching before getting their final restorations done, and they can match a little bit lighter of a shade. From there, we can go ahead and close this out. We can look at the smile presented here. I'll go ahead and move forward to the next tab. So with these different tabs here, for instance, with gingiva design, I don't necessarily think I need that with this patient, but I wanted to at least show that you can generate virtual gingiva that allows you to kind of fill any spaces that you can't with the tooth library. So once that's done generating, you're going to have the ability to freeform the gingiva as well and change the color aspects of the presented gingiva. So it's a pretty nice feature here to where on those cases to where you do have spaces that you need to be filled, you can pull up the freeform gingiva, adjust placement on the fly, size and shape, and utilize add, remove, and smooth. So a lot of added functionality here. I'm just going to go ahead and cancel out of that and delete our gingiva and turn our images back on. So from there, like I did mention, you can adjust color properties of the gingiva itself with the same crosshairs and functionality as we were discussing with our shade of our tooth libraries. From a light shade standpoint, there is a lot of cool options that have been added to 3.2 Elefsina. So the adjust tooth light has always been an option. So this is an artificial light. You can adjust the positioning, and I'm just moving my mouse. Once I see the orientation that I want the light, I can left click and it'll lock that positioning in place. So in previous versions, you didn't have the ability to adjust that docking position on where that stays put. So alternatively, you may need to adjust the brightness of the image to really kind of blend in the patient's new smile design so it looks more natural. From there, shading options. So this is a really cool aspect that's been added in. I think we've all seen photos where patients are smiling, and naturally, due to shadows and where the light is reflecting on the patient's teeth, naturally you're going to see it get darker in the patient's mouth and their smile. So you have the ability to fine tune that, so you can utilize these scroll bars to adjust the darkening fall off distance. And then from there, the darkening offset itself. So how much will it darken from that distance? And then the maximum darkening value. So if it's getting a little too dark, you can kind of brighten that up a little bit and blend that in accordingly. So from here, we can go ahead and select next. But perhaps I want to grab a screenshot. So I can go to Tools, Screenshot and Image Management. I can capture my main view or do a manual view. Another aspect, maybe I want to edit to help communicate to our customers what exactly is changing. I could, potentially add a shape or add text, for instance, and then position, save, and then we'll close that out here. So from there, we'll see any edits that we made in that image. And then we can tell the software what report we want to add these screenshots to. So throughout the years, we've gotten a lot of great feedback about the PDFs our software creates. But one thing, you may want to add a specific image or photo from a file. You can do that as well and make edits. You can take screenshots on the fly. And perhaps you want to create a DentalCAD PDF report via right-click on Save, and then you can generate a PDF that way as well. So from here, there is add all images to report. So if we took multiple screenshots, we could tell the software to add all of them to whatever report we see fit. We can save all images. They're going to be now in our project folder. I'll go ahead and close out this tool. So as I select next, the software is now generating that PDF report for ModelCreator. So there's a lot of customization a user can do, everything from size, margins, orientation, or from light mode or dark mode. You can add your company logo and then scale that size, for instance. But From here, this is an expandable option. So there's several predetermined screenshots that are added automatically. And then you can see at the bottom here, my screenshots have been added as well. So as we scroll through this, we're going to see a outline restorative setup here. So all measurements, for the patient design aspect and ratios. You can see helper lines, and all of these are adjustable to where if you don't want to include all this information, you don't have to. So that's where you can expand this and disable certain aspects by clicking on the checkboxes. So if I scroll down here, we'll see the screenshot that I added. And from here, we can export that to save in a different location, print it. It will be saved in the patient's project folder. So from here, we're just going to select done. And once again, this is just a notification. The software has detected the screenshot images that we took. We can go to edit them or just continue at that point. And with this one, we do have, I did have a treatment already planned, and this is a good thing to show to where with our software, you have the ability to create scene files. So you could design this case with different tooth libraries, for instance, to show the patient multiple PDFs. And in that scenario, you could save as and label it, whatever, maybe the library you use as example, or we could do design 3 and then save that as. So that point, you could show the customer maybe 2 or 3 different smile variants, maybe something with a more square or ovoid or, rounded corners. So different, anatomical features that you could provide as an option as well. Now, earlier while we were in SmileCreator modeling, we discussed that you'd have multiple opportunity to kind of adjust library position and tooth setup. So when you leave SmileCreator, that'll take you to our tooth placement wizard. So you'll have full aspect of multiple tools here. So there's going to be the simple tab that'll allow more the opportunities to restrict your movements. So if you want to go in an occlusal direction only or mesial distal, for instance, you could enable that. You can left click and drag tooth position as you see fit, rotate, scale. But with the Move tab, you can utilize the hotkeys Shift and Control to scale and rotate those libraries. For this, I am going to pull up Advanced. So from here, we can also scale our libraries accordingly. So with the free access scaling, I can just hold Shift and I can see the direction I'm going to be moving. You can also hold Control and Shift, do more of a directional based scaling, so you don't scale the whole library. And then there are slide bars to adjust your incisal edges from pointed to flat as well. So if you want to kind of adjust the library itself, I'm a big fan of these to where you can really kind of get multiple libraries, with the option of this slide bar. You're adapting that whole library to change the visualization and the aesthetics of the incisal edge at that point. Another thing to note, after you've created SmileCreator, you can enable the smile window. So you can still see any aspects or changes you're making as you're designing. So you can kind of see that tooth is moving in the background there. And this is expandable as well. So if you wanted to kind of get more of a enlarged view, there's show hide, so you can turn things on and off and so forth. From there, if you want to regenerate your PDF, you have that option. So we can go ahead and close that down. But I do want to show one other thing with that smile window. There's been shortcuts that have been added. So if you want to jump straight back to SmileCreator modeling, make some adjustments within that view and step of the software, you have that quick right click and select which portion you want to go to. You want to adjust the shade, you want to regenerate the PDF report, then you have that capability on the fly. So from here, we might have some aspects that are looking at our distance to scan data. Maybe I want to increase some thickness. So maybe I want to grab and pull some material. From here, I can actually hold shift and scale certain aspects of the library as well. Maybe close some proximal areas like so. And then from here, we can go ahead and proceed to our next step. Maybe I want to get a little more coverage there. Okay, so this next step, our virtual wax up bottom, this is going to allow you to choose how is your design going to fit on the patient's arch. So if we choose to proceed and produce or manufacture the design to fit over the patient's existing teeth, we can apply an insertion direction. So basically you can rotate your model, set your insertion direction from view, or there are arrows that you can left click and drag to change that insertion direction as well. I could have just hit next, but if you hit apply, you can freeform. So there might be some areas that you want to remove some undercuts from or add additional blockouts. So at this point, you'll have that opportunity if you select apply. So I'm just going to go ahead with the default orientation. Now, when it comes to our show distances here, we do see, I'm going to go ahead and turn that off, but so we can see a little bit better representation of our contacts, our connectors that have been added. One thing to note with TrueSmile, especially when you're using segmented teeth, if you right click on this, there are different renderings you can choose from. So perhaps a plaster view or all distinguish. So the all distinguish, you know, as you're looking at segmented teeth and the tooth libraries you're working on, it can give a better visualization to kind of, you know, ensure that, you know, you're getting the coverage you need for your design. When it comes to connectors, they are automatically positioned. You can kind of see them here in purple. You can left click and drag where those connector points are going to be added. You can go to a multi-view design, adjust placement and shape, and then you can also copy certain rings to other teeth in the mouth, all teeth. You can copy from a different ring. So a lot of functionality with connectors. And then it's all automatically placed by settings here. So if you don't like the way they're coming in, you can adjust to be, you know, more below contact points. You can adjust how far it is from the lingual surface, for example, and then apply your placement now, apply cross-section shape changes for anything that you choose as well. I'm just going to proceed with the connectors that are present here. And then our software is going to generate the virtual wax up scan, which is going to allow us to basically cut to the arch scan itself. So I'm going to go back to our TrueSmile rendering. And then from here, we can turn on our auto hide and look at our lingual surface here. I'm going to turn on my jaw scan. And at this point, I can visualize what tooth shape is appearing on the lingual surface. So I always like to tell people whatever you see here is going to be part of your design when you adapt to the jaw scan. So when you do a hard cut is what we call it. So from here, I like to turn on smooth. And if you see that /flatten, so if I hold shift, the software will dramatically remove material for me very quickly. So it's a quick, efficient way to kind of get rid of unwanted material. So I could have done this in my tooth placement, but the cool thing about our software is you have the ability to reuse tooth library. And at any point, you can export tooth models right here. So you right click and export tooth models. When you use mockup or ModelCreator, tooth model files are going to be exported to the project folder automatically. And the good thing about that, it's exporting the whole tooth library that you place, all the scaling, position changes you made, shape adjustments. So this patient isn't prepped yet. We're trying to get their buy-in for the procedure. Once they accept that, and then the doctor moves forward by prepping the patient, you then have that design that the patient loved and signed off on. Then you can utilize that for the case moving forward. So when You swap out jaw scans or duplicate the case, you can really reuse that design, and that's your starting point then, what the patient already accepted. So minimizes a lot of work. And then from here, like I was saying, I'm just removing material to where I'm getting the coverage I want. And then I can look back on the facial side, make sure I still have that coverage. Now, at this step in the process, after the virtual Waxup's been created, you do have this rendering to show the thickness of your mockup design. So from here, I can kind of add in material to kind of fill any embrasures, maybe reshape my gingiva. Perhaps I wanted to change some different aspects with tooth parts. I could kind of adjust scaling by holding shift or left click and drag accordingly. So if we are kind of deficient in some areas, I can get some extra length. Perhaps go back to add and remove. Fill in some corners there. And really at this point, we're ready for a hard cut. So we're meeting a thickness we need for manufacturing. And I can go to my adapt. I can do individually or cut all intersections at once. Okay, so now we've adapted that, we can even look at our smile window again, make sure we're seeing the results we're looking for, close that out, and then proceed forward. So we can turn some aspects off just to kind of show our shell design has been created. So now I'll proceed forward, and we can see that finished design is available to 3D print. Our next step here, I'm going to go ahead through design model, and I'll just bypass the saving scene option. So earlier in the PowerPoint, we discussed different options to show model types. So this will quickly kind of animate and show you what those types are. So we've gotten some feedback with users may not understand what a plate model, plateless is. So that'd be a way for you to visualize that. And then for today's focus, we're doing a digital Waxup model. Now, with looking at what we see on screen, you can left click and adjust positioning of the patient's arches within these blue and green planes. So that's representing the height of your model. So you can adjust that on the fly. And then also a really awesome feature is printer presets. So let's say you had a specific printer that is integrated with our software, which if you have a 3D printer, most likely it's integrated. We have so many of them now at this point. So our technology integration team, they're constantly updating libraries for printers and tooth libraries, implants, and so forth. After you select your printer, then you're going to see a drop down here for the resin that's going to be used for that printer. So the good part about this is, you know, with all the different manufacturers of printers out there, all these settings for presets that are created, they're created by the manufacturer. So when you select those options, you're already starting off with what the manufacturer recommends for the printer model you selected and the resin you're going to print with. Because as you all are most likely aware, there's, you know, depending on the printer, there may be 4 or 5 different resins available for models. So it's really awesome that those are incorporated in. That way you can ensure you're getting, you know, the final result will come out of your machine properly. Now, with plateless model design for our digital Waxups, a cool feature here. So we're basically telling the software to incorporate our design onto our model. So full anatomic is before I did my hard cut. So I have the lingual surfaces. I can keep those tooth model files for when the patient gets prepped. Or you have anatomic Waxups. So after we did our cut, I can see that library positioned as well. And then merged, so perhaps I did some freeforming to the libraries after the part was merged. Now with fully anatomic, this is an expandable option here, so I can choose what teeth or libraries I want to be positioned on the model. So some dentists want alternating tooth numbers here so they can process from that point. So you have that functionality. So that was a requested item by some end users. So from here, we can choose our merged part and proceed forward to create our model. Okay. And once that model is created, we will have the option to produce the opposing model as well. So depending on the type of setup you're doing, if it's just for a presentation model, you may not need the opposing, so you could skip that or create the model. So we can go ahead and create that model just for demonstration purposes, and then go over some model attachments we have available as well. Okay, so I'll go ahead and proceed by selecting next. And now with model attachments, turn off my auto hide here for a second. So we can see the bases have been created. From here, I can select options. For instance, drain holes. So majority of the printers now, you're placing models directly flush with the build plate. And depending on the printer type, that could kind of create a vacuum effect throughout the printing process. So you can add drain holes throughout the arches, as an example. Another cool feature is the cutout for part removal from build plate. So you could create a recess area for your tool to pry that model off of the build plate easily. And then same with this chamfer here. So you can use this, it'll be a subtractive attachment. So anywhere it's placed on the model, it'll remove that material, similar to the drain holes. Outside of that, there's a lot of different articulator types that have been added. So everything from Itero, for instance, and then also X-Snap. So we got a lot of great feedback of the X-Snap. This is an additional module that you can purchase. But for instance, you pick the angle you want placed, and then from there, I can just left click my position on where I want those articulators to be present. So I can see this is kind of a ball and socket style articulator type that's going to allow you to simulate jaw movements in your hand when you 3D print those models. So it's going to basically allow you to rotate that position, and then you can left click and drag to change the orientation as well. So it's going to keep those aligned to each other to ensure that it works properly. From there, there's the hinge clearance, so you can adjust the fitment of that ball and socket. So if it's you can really fine tune, if you want more of a passive or a tighter tolerance for that when you're simulating those excursive movements in your hand with the model. So we can go ahead and select next, and then the software is going to finalize the design of our wax up model we created. It's also going to incorporate those attachments. And I didn't really show it. It's been available for quite some time, but from a text standpoint, I could have added that from attachments as well. So that'll allow you to, I can go back real quick with expert mode and go to our model attachments. That's another great part of the software. Anytime you forget something, you hop in expert mode, hop back to whatever step you missed and go from there. So from here, from a text standpoint, I can go ahead and type in a value. I can choose if it's embossed, debossed, so whether you want a positive text or engraved, and then you just left click and adjust your position from there. From there, you have a lot of options to adjust your text, whether you want to increase the thickness that it's being added to the model or engraved, or the size of the font itself. You can choose the font type, make it bold, use symbols or italicize options, but I want to at least discuss that. So I'll go ahead and cancel, go back to my wizard step here. And from here, we're done. So I can select next, and then it'll close out your DentalCAD, and I'm not worried about saving a scene for that. But another cool feature that's been around for some time, we talked about integrated 3D printers earlier. So depending on the printer you have, there's a good chance we have integration with our exoprint. So the cool part about this, after you're done designing something, you could pick whatever printer you have. And if it's integrated, as long as you install it in the default installation path, our software automatically detects it and adds a button for you. And then from there, you're going to select what are you wanting to print. Are you wanting to do your CAD design or the models? So from there, you can proceed to printing, and the software, our software will load and open the slicing software with your design and place it on the build plate to allow you to adjust positioning and add supports at that point. So we can see our mockup design's been added. I just wanted to show that functionality just as a demonstration. Okay. Lucas, how are we doing with questions? Do we have any that we need to bring to the table?
Pretty light on questions so far. Yeah, there's a few minutes left. So if anybody does have anything related to SmileCreator, feel free to type that in, and we'll try to get you an answer soon here.
One thing I discussed was new settings user interface. So for instance, we brought up dental share. So you can create that digital order slip automatically. And then also with the Itero connection, the Itero connector 2.0 has been available now for some time, but that does enable a lot of communication back and forth when dentists utilize an Itero scanner, and they have the ability to attach photos and have that sent automatically as well. So the software will basically, you connect to your My Itero account. You know, I'll discuss as if, you know, we're a laboratory, and then so you log into your My Itero account through the exocad software, and then anytime you get a new case, it's going to automatically import into the database. And then one thing we discussed too was with, I'll go ahead and open up DentalCADApp again, was the settings UI for that as well. So that's been updated also. So if we go to tools and settings here, so you're going to see clickable options here. So for example, with design workflows, we discussed this in a PowerPoint. So if you want to enable this feature, when you're looking at that, when it does that, you're going to be able to, for instance, use auto articulator. So that's going to simulate jaw movements in the background automatically. And then also Freeforming automatically cut all intersections after auto articulator. So to streamline the design process, the software will automatically cut your contact occlusion, the gingiva, for instance, if you're doing conics, and that's all automated by those settings. So it's big time savings there. And even the crown bottom step. So the crown bottom is what's, you know, allows the internal fit of your restoration to be generated. Once you have your default settings put in place to get the fit, you know, your default fit for cases, you can bypass that step. So a lot of time savings here. Just wanted to make everybody aware of that so they can fully utilize that. Okay.
Couple of questions, Dan, where you're at here. I think we got another minute or two. One was, could you show how to save the designed tooth models so that you can reuse those?
Sure.
Final restoration.
Yeah, of course. Let me reopen this case here. Okay. Just go here. All right, so I have an existing design. This is merged, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete our merged Waxup real quick. So now I can see all my tooth model files. If you right click in the on the save icon, you can export tooth models. So what that does, it'll add an individual OBJ file for each tooth we have defined in the DB. And that way, when we go back to our DB, they're going to be in the project folder themselves. So from here, we can see tooth model files. And there's a couple of ways to go about this. So you already have scene files saved, or at least I do for this case with the mockup design. You could just adjust your indication to be we'll say crown at this point. Maybe the doctor is prepping all those teeth. So you could then change the indications for all the teeth to be crowns now, and I can save it. And then when I select design, so I'm gonna ignore and open an additional DentalCAD session. Software recognized I already had the case open. So from here, the software, I can pick a scene file, but I changed the indications. So I don't want to do a scene. I want to load scan data only. And now I can load those previously designed tooth models. So from here, I'm going to cancel with the treatment images. So that's with the SmileCreator photos I added. Now we don't have a prepped arch scan, and I don't have one for this patient, but in that scenario and flexibility of our software, at any time you go into expert mode, go to tools, add remove mesh. So for example, if I want to replace the jaw scan, I select my mesh type. I want to do an extra jaw scan at this point. I'm going to go to load. From here, if I had an additional arch scan, I could swap that out. I'll just load the same scan just to kind of discuss that. But if we had a prepped arch scan, I could select that and then choose whether it's relative to the scene or not. But from here, you would select OK. And then the software would give you an option to align that scan. So from here, I want to position my scans to where they're in the same orientation, roughly. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you don't want one where incisal edges are facing downward and another view where they're facing upwards. So we can see a good marbling effect, so it's been aligned. And then I can choose whether I want to merge the scan data to combine both the old scan, new scan, select certain regions of the scan I want to replace, or replace the whole scan data. So that would be the process of doing that. Alternatively, you could duplicate the original case and choose your scan and design files, hit OK, and then you just created a new case. And then you could change to anatomic crown. So multiple ways you can go about it, but hopefully that makes more sense now.
Yeah, it looks like we're just about out of time. Maybe one more real quick one here. How do you create models for injection molding? And that's really the end process of the model design process that Dan went through. So when you create that model with the design incorporated into it, you can print that, create a suck down over it, and then you'll have that hollow space incorporated in that mold that you make over the model. One other one about the gingiva is the extracted gingiva used instead of a created gingiva when adding to the restoration. I think they're talking about the tooth segmentation part when it also creates that gingiva section. If I remember correctly, that does create a separate item on the show hide list for gingiva, so you can use that shape.
Yeah, and depending on the workflow, like with duplicate dentures, for instance, I know we have another webinar session we have two more coming up, but I encourage you all to join that one. We'll kind of discuss that as well. But yeah, with duplicate dentures as another great feature, one of the primary reasons for the tooth segmentation, but it'll allow you to copy the gingiva exactly from that existing denture to use that segmented teeth and the segmented gingiva. So I guess we are at time. If we don't have any other questions we'll bring up, we might have to get back to each individual that submitted a question, and we'll get an answer to you after the webinar as soon as possible. So please allow us some time to get answers ready for you, and we'll get them out to you individually. So I do want to once again thank you all for joining us. We're very excited and proud of what our development teams achieved in the software, and we know it's going to help your production and allow you to generate patient smiles with ease. So thanks again.
Take care, everybody.